Hey guys, this is Nick with Phone Arena, and today we are reviewing the Panasonic Eluga. This Android smartphone is already out in Japan, but it also just launched in Europe, so it marks the return of Panasonic to the European cell phone market after being absent for about 6 years or so. In terms of specs, you get a 4.3-inch display, 540 by 960 pixels of resolution, a dual-core chipset, Texas Instruments OMAP 4430 clocked at 1 GHz. The main camera on the back is of 8 megapixels, sadly there is no LED flash. There's support for NFC, and Android 2.3.5 Gingerbread is installed on this review unit here, but an update to Android 4.0 is scheduled for this summer. As you can see, the Panasonic Eluga is one razor-thin smartphone, and on top of that it weighs only 103 grams. So it's really lightweight. It feels really well in the hand, especially with its sloped back side, so we are more than satisfied with its design. The back cover is made out of plastic, which looks a bit boring, but thankfully it is immune to fingerprints. We must also mention that the Eluga is resistant to dust and water damage, even though it may not look like it. That is why we are happy to see that this here is a rugged device that manages to look so good at the same time. Underneath the display we see 3 capacitive Android buttons, and we have no complaints about them. Up here we see the earpiece and a really discreet notification light. On the top side we have a 3.5mm headphone jack, a micro USB port for charging and connectivity to a PC, and a slot for a micro SIM card. The lock key and 2-button volume rocker are located on the back, and we think that this is a pretty bad idea. Holding the smartphone with your left hand means that your index finger can easily reach them, but if you hold the device in your right hand, operating them is far more difficult than it should be. The display is a 4.3-inch AMOLED panel with QHD resolution, and it uses a pentile pixel arrangement, but we don't really see anything wrong with that in this case. The colors on the other hand look way too saturated for our taste, and we notice that whites easily become bluish when the device is viewed at an angle. Outdoor visibility is quite good since the display is bright and does not reflect much of the sunlight. The Panasonic Eluga comes with Gingerbread out of the box. This here is Android 2.3.5, but an update to Android 4.0 is coming this summer, and we really hope that it will take care of some issues. For example, the interface on this review unit with the Gingerbread is far from fluid, even though we have some pretty decent hardware here, like a dual-core GHz processor and a gig of RAM. This here is mostly stock Gingerbread with a few light modifications. There's nothing exciting in terms of widgets. You can have 5 home screens, and you can pick between big icons arranged in a 3x3 grid like we have right here, or smaller icons arranged in a 4x4 or a 4x5 grid. Pre-installed and downloaded applications are sorted in 2 different lists, which makes finding them a bit more convenient. The on-screen virtual keyboard is comfortable to use in landscape mode, but in portrait mode it feels really tiny and inconvenient to type on with 2 thumbs at the same time. Thankfully there is a very useful autocomplete bar, and your typos are corrected on the fly. In terms of software, the data security application can be quite useful if privacy is of importance. It can restrict access to things like email, documents, or your gallery, and add several code-protected lock screen widgets as well. There is also what Panasonic calls Eco Mode, which is basically a battery life preserving tool. For the most part, the stock web browser works well, but there is a slight lag when scrolling through heavy web pages. Other than that, everything works fine. You get Adobe Flash support, pinch to zoom, text reflow, and support for multiple windows. The 8 megapixel camera on the Panasonic Eluga is somewhat average, and we were honestly expecting to see more. Photos look okay for the most part, although fine details look smudged. There is a relatively long shutter lag of about a second, and it takes a whole 2 seconds before the next frame is captured. On top of all that, you get no flash whatsoever, and that is really strange for a device of this class. Nevertheless, at least the 720p videos that it captures look presentable. The audio player is pretty straightforward to use, and it even has its own home screen widget. The experience is pretty stock, but it gets the job done well, so we cannot complain. The video player is pretty simple as well, with videos of up to 720p playing back smoothly. Our QuickTime and MPEG-4 video samples were playable, but support for the DivX file format is absent. As a whole, watching videos on the Panasonic Eluga is a pleasant experience due to the screen's 4.3-inch diagonal. Both the earpiece and the microphone on the Panasonic Eluga are pretty disappointing. The earpiece should have been a bit louder, and the voices that come through it crackle at times and are generally unpleasant to listen to. On the other side of the line, volume is high, but our voice is often hard to distinguish. On top of all that, the battery inside the handset has a relatively small capacity of 1150 mAh and cannot be removed. That should provide you with only 4 hours of talk time, or about 12 days in standby, which are figures that most of today's smartphones easily beat. In conclusion, the Panasonic Eluga is above all one stylish smartphone. We are really happy with its nonconformist design, and its resistance to the elements is more than welcome. However, it is spoiled by its relatively bad in-call quality, the poor button placement, and the below-average battery life. Some of the alternatives that we would recommend include the Motorola Razr, which is also incredibly thin, but technically superior due to its better hardware. The HTC One S is another great example of a well-executed slim Android smartphone, and although it is not resistant to the elements, it's equipped with a better camera and speedier processor. Thank you for watching our video review of the Panasonic Eluga. This is Nick, and if you'd like to check out any of our other smartphone reviews, just visit our website phonearena.com.